All right, it's been a really great 3 or 4 days in Birmingham. I really want to thank the Bowl Committee, Mark Meadows and his staff for, number one, inviting Wake Forest to represent the ACC. And we want to thank the whole city of Birmingham, everybody involved, our hosts, the city. I had a chance to meet the mayor. It's really been a great experience for our whole football team. You know, from the different dinners to a chance to see the Civil Rights Institute and walk past the 16th Street Baptist Church, and an opportunity to play in historic Legion Field against a very good and extremely well-coached football team, the Memphis Tigers. So, you know, bowl games are half field trips, half business trips. The field trip part of it is over. And now it becomes like a normal away game for us, that we're into our pregame routine. We've had our walkthrough. Tonight we'll have our dinner and our meetings, and we'll get up tomorrow and have an early kickoff. And like I said, we're excited to be here. But what makes the bowl experience is playing well and coming home, hopefully, with that beautiful trophy right there.
Question? For both of the players, is it an easy transition? I know you guys have done this the last couple of years. Is it an easy transition to go from all the bowl festivities, like the tours and everything, to getting ready to play in a game that means a lot to the season, obviously?
I think it's really easy. We never really take it as a field trip in the first place. It's always a business trip first. And we definitely do more business than playing, you know, so it's not really a transition that we have to make. It's something that we already know that we're going to do.
I think we do a really good job of scheduling on the bowl trips. For the past 3 years, it's always been we get up early in the morning, not crazy early, but we get up before 10 o'clock in the morning, and we have meetings and we have practice, and we go through everything football, and we're done with that usually by noon or 1, and then we eat, and then we go through the bowl festivities the rest of the day. So it's nice that we do everything in the morning first, and then we do all the festivities after.
Dave Clawson, Memphis Radio. You go on the road twice to get bowl eligible. You do it without your starting quarterback. How did this team find this kind of resolve to accomplish that?
I mean, it was really remarkable, because after the Syracuse game, we were sitting there at 4-5 and still had to go on the road against NC State, who was ranked 14th in the country, play a Pitt team that ended up winning the Coastal Division, and then we'd have to go play a Duke team, who I believe at the time was 7-2 or 6-3. So, but we have, I think we have a really good culture, and we have really good seniors. 2 of them are up here with me. Football is just too important to these guys to fold, and I really credit them, because with the amount of injuries we had this year, you know, albeit our quarterback, and we had 10 guys in our 2 deep in defense that had season-ending injuries, that I think a team of lesser resolve, you know, those seasons can end up 3-9 or 4-8. And we stuck together and kept practicing well, and a lot of the younger players that we had to play in the beginning of the year who probably weren't ready, you know, now it's week 10, 11, 12, you know, they learned the hard way and then played much better. So we ended up playing a lot of guys this year that I don't think we were counting on to play, but as the year went on, they became more reliable special teams players, more reliable package players, and Jamie Newman's a good quarterback. I mean, Jamie and Sam Hartman were neck and neck in preseason camp, and you know, if Jamie didn't get hurt, I mean, he was right there with Sam. So when we played Jamie, we never ever viewed him as a backup quarterback. We viewed him as a guy who was in contention to be the starter that was finally healthy.
Hey, Coach Clawson, Jarvis Greer, WNC Memphis. Okay, so all the preparations put to bed basically now. Talk a little bit about what it is that Memphis does that you guys really have tried to prepare for.
Well, first off, on offense, they run more offense than anybody we've seen in, I don't know how many years. I mean, they do everything. It's so multiple. I don't know how they practice it all. And this would be a really, you can see why they're successful, because if you only had 1 week to get ready for them, it would be a really tough prep. All the unbalanced stuff they do, all the split back stuff they do, the wildcat stuff they do, all the different places they line up Pollard. He's a little bit of the, where is he aligned? And he's such a versatile playmaker that they do a lot of things. And Mike knows his offense so well. This is not a football team that just goes out there and runs plays. They know the dilemmas they put you in. And then base how you fit things and are covering things, they have the answers built in. He is a really sharp offensive coach. And then all that stuff is great, but it doesn't mean anything if you don't have good players. And they have very good players. Henderson isn't playing, but if he was in the ACC, I would put him right up there with NTN and the back from BC and all the best backs that we play in our league. He's a high-level player that can play anywhere in the country in any conference. And then you have Taylor, who's a 223-pound guy. And then Pollard, who's versatile, and Coxey's a 6'3", 200-pound receiver. And their tackle Tate, the right guard, is an all-conference player in the center. I mean, they have good players. And then defensively, they're not quite as multiple on defense, but they know what they're doing. They give up yards, but they do a really nice job of getting off the field by creating turnovers and stripping the football. They probably emphasize those type of things on film more than any team I've seen. So when you're up-tempo offense and you're going to try to outscore people, you don't really care about the yards your defense gets up. You just want to get stops. And they find creative ways to get stops, whether it's their third down package or their ability to create turnovers. So this is a really good football team. And they're used to playing Power 5 teams. I mean, it's, the win they had last year over UCLA. And, that was a Josh Rosen-led team that these guys put 48 points on. And certainly what they did against UCF. And I know that's their kind of Achilles heel, that, it's 4 games against those guys in 2 years. But, that's a 2-time undefeated football team, and nobody's played them tougher than Memphis, and that includes Auburn in the bowl game. So these guys are good players, and they're well coached. And Memphis is a school that has clearly made a commitment to football. You look at their budgets and where they rank in facilities, and their budgets for their coaching staff. They're committed to it. This isn't a middle-of-the-run group of 5 school. This is one of the premier. This is a have in one of the certainly the best group of 5 conference in the country.
Coach Kelly Quinlan from Rivals.com. You kind of were just alluding to this, but playing a team like Memphis can be maybe a little bit harder than playing a lower tier P5 team that just eked into a bowl. Can you just kind of talk about that matchup, playing a team that played for their conference championship, and kind of how they maybe compare to some of the other teams you've seen on film from the ACC or other leagues?
We've played, our first year, in our first year we were a bowl team, we played 2 AAC teams. And that year Tulane, was not, Tulane, that was Willie Fritz's first year, and they really, at that point, weren't a good football team, and we barely beat them. And then Temple gave us everything we could handle in the Military Bowl. And then the one game we played against an AAC team this year, Tulane, who was a 6-6 bowl eligible team, we had to go to overtime, and they really had us beat. So our players know this is a good conference. Group of 5, Power 5, Power 6, whatever. It's just labels. You put the film on, and there's a lot of players at Memphis that could play at Wake Forest or NC State or a lot of places in the country. And it's not just Henderson in the back. They've got good football players.
John Zena with Associated Press. This is for Coach and Cameron. How much does it affect your preparation and what you're expecting, the fact that they don't have him as Henderson? And Cameron, were you kind of looking forward to playing a guy with those kind of numbers too?
I definitely was looking forward to playing. I feel like when they put the emphasis on different running backs, it's always cool to see how you measure up against them, and I felt like it would have been fun to play against them. But they have two other good backs, or great backs at that, so I'm still going to be able to stand toe-to-toe with those guys and see how I match up.
And, I mean, Henderson is a great player, and averages 8.9 yards a carry, but when he goes off and number 6 Taylor goes in there, he's averaging almost 6 yards a carry. And then when they put Pollard in the backfield, he's averaging over 7 yards a carry. So it's not like they had one great back and nobody else. That's been a three-headed monster all year for them. And if you still have two of your best three, there's plenty of stuff they can do.
Dave, I wanted to ask if there's any update on Greg's health.
Yeah, he's not going to play tomorrow. He has a hand injury, and he's not going to be cleared.
I guess you're referring to Greg Dortch, right?
Yeah, these two guys follow our football team,
Right.
so when they ask about Greg,
I was just going to ask what all three of you guys what made him so great, but now that question is.
well, it's still, he's had a great season, so it's still a relevant question. I mean, Greg has highly competitive, loves football, tremendous ball skills. You know, the analogy of he can make you miss in a phone booth, that one's starting to become a little bit dated. Have you guys ever seen a phone booth? So I got to stop using that one because I try to portray myself as young. So I don't know what would be the new equivalent to making you miss in a phone booth. I got to figure that one out. But he is just so quick, and he's a very confident, very tough football player, and he's done a great job for us. I mean, he played the whole second half of the Duke game with this injury, which was similar to last year when he played the whole second half against Louisville with a torn intestine. So his pain tolerance is through the roof, and I mean, if there's any way he could possibly go tomorrow, he'd be playing. But that's football, and so it'll be interesting. They're missing their primary weapon, and ours is not playing. So, but we have other good players too. I mean, we've got some good backs, and Caden and Matt Colburn, and Jamie's played well, and Sage and Scotty and Alex Bachman and Jaquari. And, that's never an excuse. That's part of the game.
Coach, you lost a lot of games early in your tenure at Wake Forest when your depth got tested, but you kind of alluded to this earlier as well. It seems to say a lot about where your program's at, that you can survive 10, 11 main injuries and get to a bowl game and then, have someone where there's not a huge drop-off. Even with someone like Greg that's out, you can replace them with someone that has, the skills to play at this level. Can you just talk about?
I mean, it started with this group in their class. Bowl games, I always get a little sentimental. I have never coached a game without Cam Glenn or Ryan Anderson. I've never run a practice at Wake Forest without Ryan Anderson. He was a mid-year guy. And, when you reflect on this group that really committed to us when I just got the head coaching job from Bowling Green. I'm sure these guys didn't even know where Bowling Green was located. And there's a little bit of blind faith involved. But the reason I brought these two with me is these two were part of a culture change that made football very important in our program. And because football was important, after 2, 3, and 9 seasons, guys didn't stop working. And I'm just so proud of both of them. Ryan was part, arguably, of the worst positional group in the ACC his freshman and redshirt freshman year. I mean, we averaged 39 yards rushing the ball in 14, and then I think it jumped to like 85 and 15, which if you considered percentage improvement, we led the country. Now we're averaging 215 yards a game. So it went from 40 to 105 to 145 to 185 to 215. And I think if you talk to any coach in the ACC who has the best offensive line, we would be in that conversation. And it's because of Ryan Anderson and Phil Haynes and Justin Huron and Patrick Osterhage and how hard those guys worked. And Cam's another guy that probably played before he was ready, did not have the success he hoped to have early in his career, but never ever stopped working. And I mean, this guy next to me has played his very best football in his whole Wake Forest career the last month of the season. I mean, he was a second-team all-conference player this year, or what were you, second team? And if you look at his production the second half of the season, I would argue he should have been first team. But for these two guys, football is important. And when we got there, I don't know how many players in our program liked football, let alone loved it. And now we have guys that love football. And when you love football, if things don't go well, you don't give up. And so when we were 3-4 and had to win at Louisville, we found a way. When we were 4-5 and had to win at NC State, we found a way. And when we were 5-6 and our season was about to end, we more than found a way against Duke. I mean, that was as ready to play a game that I've seen our football team, certainly this season, and as ready as any game we've played. And it's because of these guys, and not just them, but Phil, Patrick, Alex Bachman, Chuck Wade. We have great leadership, and that's why these games are always a little bit bittersweet for me. Is game's over and they go home and they pack up, and I'm not looking forward to that.
This is for the players, both of you guys. They say in these bowl games like this especially, it's whichever team is the most motivated is usually the one that wins, regardless of the record. Talk about you guys' motivation for playing this game, and does Power 5 Group of 5 come into that at all?
I don't necessarily think the Power 5 versus non-Power 5. I think Coach Clawson has said it a bunch this week, but you don't play bad football teams in bowl games. I mean, every team you play is going to be good. And as far as the motivation, we have been well prepared our past 2 bowl games, and we really do look at these less of like a vacation and more of like a business trip. So, players stay really locked in the whole time we're here, and are very motivated to win because everyone wants to get the ring. Especially this being the last one, definitely don't want to not get a ring for this one.
I would say the main motivation also is just chasing history. We've done something that's never been done here at Wake Forest, and that's pretty much why I came here to change the culture, and just to see that that's what we're doing is very what we're looking for, and just the fact that we have a chance to win 3 back-to-back bowl games is this will be a part of history forever, and who wouldn't want to be a part of history?
You got time for one last question?
Last of 247 Sports. Cam, does this feel like your last game as a Demon Deac? And then the follow-up to that is, what's led to the incredible progression the back half of the season on limiting explosive plays? I know the secondary's played a big part in that.
So the first about just does it feel like my last game? Well, it's kind of hard to say it's not, but it does because it technically is my last game here being a Wake Forest Demon Deacon. I've loved every bit of it. I'm going to miss everything. I'm kind of getting emotional just talking about it, and I'm sure I'm going to be even more emotional after the game. I just put so much into it, and it's just hard to finally let go of something that I've been doing this for the past 5 years. So, and just about the last half of the season, I would say it was just locking in, just being more urgent. Kind of understood what it was to be a captain. I understood that it was harder than what I thought it would be, and right at that moment, I committed myself to just putting every single thing I have into it, and that's what I try to do, and I've tried to be as productive as possible these past few games, do what I have to do, no matter where they put me, where I'm lined up on the field, whether I'm on the D-line, linebacker level, back at safety, I'll do whatever needs to be done to get a win.
Coach, gentlemen, thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thanks.